I suppose it just took time, but it seems like we're at the point in the story where these far left extremists, these Black Lives Matter rioters, are starting to get charged, and some of these charges are getting serious. St. Pete protester caught with Molotov cocktail loaded gun, police say. Abraham Qureshi has been charged with terrorist activity and inciting a riot following a June protest. The hammer is dropping. There are many jurisdictions that aren't playing the stupid games that Seattle and Portland, Chicago, New York, Fort Worth are playing. They're coming for these people. This guy didn't even throw the Molotov. They found it in his car. Apparently, for some reason, he threw a bullet at somebody, like as a warning or something. Fine, I get it. But I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more charges coming in. Now, as many of you know, this is your morning riot update. And here's what's actually scary. Local news outlets didn't cover the riot last night. It was a riot. They marched through residential neighborhoods chanting, "Wake up," pointing lights in people's windows again. There was a large group with shields. They started a fire in the street. And I go to the local outlets like I normally do because I roll my eyes like, yeah, they're going to say another protest. They didn't even cover it. Welcome to your new normal. This is what I said yesterday. We can't allow them to normalize it. They aren't even covering the riots anymore because they happen so much. That is when things get freaky. But I'll tell you this. I'm starting with this story to make a positive point. At least in many jurisdictions, they're done playing games. But there is a serious concern that crime is skyrocketing across this country as tax bases erode and riots continue. Crime is going up, lethal crime. We may see a tipping point. And we've got an AG in Louisiana saying we're getting close to it. But let's get started and read about what's going on with this St. Petersburg protester, they say, over at ABC Action News. They say St. Petersburg protester, wink, wink, has been charged with terrorist activity after police discovered a Molotov cocktail in his car that was parked outside of police headquarters. Now, to be fair, innocent until proven guilty, but you get this guy pleads guilty to this charge. We're going to start saying BLM terrorists. I'm not even kidding. They're charging these people with terrorism. So I'll give this one a shout out to Steven Crowder, who did the Change My Mind, Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. I hear his points. Well, at least here's some evidence to suggest. Well, it lends itself to his argument, what he said. Police arrested 26-year-old Abraham Qureshi for inciting a riot and resisting arrest with violence during a June 3rd protest outside of a police headquarters. They call it a protest, but these people are bringing weapons and Molotovs. Come on, call it something else. The arrest was reported on the following day as Chief Anthony Holloway described how Qureshi threw a round of ammunition at the direction of officers during the protest. Officers soon realized Qureshi was carrying a loaded firearm without a permit. Days later, investigators discovered Qureshi parked his car as close to police headquarters, as close due to the barricades on the night of the arrest. A report states Qureshi called his uncle from jail and directed him to tow his locked vehicle to Pinellas Park. Police later discovered a Molotov cocktail inside the vehicle. A swab tested positive for flammable liquid. If the defendant was not arrested, there is reason to believe the defendant was going to discharge the device, an arrest report states. According to police, there were approximately 30 to 40 people at the protest that night and numerous officers in and outside the police building. Also concerning, police say, are several videos investigators uncovered of on Qureshi's phone. One video, according to court documents, shows Qureshi outside the St. Pete Police Department with his rifle captioned, "Stay home." This is terrorism. They're being charged with terrorism. It is getting to that point. Please pay attention. And that's why it's so scary. They're normalizing this stuff, in Portland at least. Another allegedly shows Qureshi holding a firearm, passing by the old St. Pete Police Building with the caption, "Thinking about." A third video shows Qureshi driving by the new St. Pete Pier with the caption, "Pigs guarding the pier I ran a few nights ago." The video allegedly then shows Qureshi panning the camera to a Molotov cocktail and a rifle. A report also stated that these videos depict apparent reconnaissance from high vantage points of SPPD and other critical infrastructure. ABC Action News reporter Ryan Smith reached out to local St. Pete police protesters who said the one person who met him that night claims that he traveled from Polk County to protest and has not been back consistently since. Just this week, police say they arrested Qureshi's roommate for setting off a Molotov cocktail in a St. Pete parking lot. Sean Francis Zeigenbane, 23, is charged with making or discharging a destructive device. The Tampa attorney, who is now representing both defendants, told ABC Action News reporter Ryan Smith he had no comment when called Friday. St. Pete PD issued the following statement following the two men's arrests. Our detectives are still working diligently on active ongoing investigations on co-defendants Abraham Qureshi and Sean Francis Zigenbane. For this reason, we cannot provide any additional details. So I want to just make sure we highlight this. Charged with terrorist activity. And this story is from just the other night. St. Petersburg, Florida. I don't know how big St. Petersburg is, but you can imagine that if the feds are starting to do this here, I believe it's only a matter of time before they start moving forward and going into other areas. There is some good news. While I can say that, on the front page of the Oregonian, we're not really seeing any reporting on the ongoing riots, for which there are many. Brendan Gutenschwager tweeted, the protesters have arrived at the North Precinct. We got another one. Stolen land, stolen people chants as protesters continue to shine lights into residences here in Portland along the march route. I can't show many of his other tweets because it's vandalism, fire, destruction, chaos, rioting, and YouTube may actually prevent you from seeing this if I do. And I say this regrettably that, we're at this point where I can't show you the videos. Otherwise, you might not even hear it's happening. Look, here's Oregon Live. The front story is reopening Oregon schools. They're normalizing it. We're now looking at 86 nights of riots. And I'm not talking about dwindling groups. These groups are as big as they've been for the past 86 nights with shields forming a phalanx or whatever. And now they're not reporting on it. Even the front page of Katu 2. However, there is some interesting news. Let me see if I can try and find here. Well, for one, the FBI is investigating a bomb threat. That was big news I covered yesterday. But the Oregon FBI is seeking information on people who incite violence during Portland protests. I love how they call them protests, even though they've been declaring them riots. Well, the front page of these local outlets are not covering the ongoing unrest. At least we're seeing this from Katu 2. The feds will be the ones to step in and deal with this. They say the Oregon FBI is asking for information on people who are inciting violence during protests in Portland. Officials said the FBI respects the rights of individuals who peacefully exercise their First Amendment rights. However, FBI officials said the continued violence, potential threat to life, and destruction of property across the U.S. interferes with the rights and safety of First Amendment protected peaceful demonstrators as well as other citizens. If you witness or have witnessed unlawful violent actions, the FBI urges you to submit any information, photos, or videos that could be relevant to the case. You can also call the FBI tip line and give them information. So we know that the dude, you can see it right here, trending, suspect in violent Portland assault, caught on video, turns himself in. But we've got ABC News here, 5:30 a.m. today. Smoke fills air as Portland police clear riot at precinct. A riot has been declared early Saturday outside of a police precinct in Portland as demonstrators continue to clash with law enforcement in Oregon's largest city. Okay, why didn't these local outlets run this story like they normally do? I looked, maybe there's some blurb or something. Maybe they're gonna write, I don't know. Usually they have a story saying, boom, 85th night, 84th, 83rd. They've been normalizing it. Yesterday, I said, I am getting bored talking about the ongoing rioting. It's the same story every night. 100 plus people all wearing black with shields march through residential neighborhoods, yelling, wake up, throwing things, smashing things, threatening people, and then going to a police station, to a county building, to the ICE facility. The feds are back out in the street. We're starting to see an escalation, and they've normalized this. That's what I said yesterday. Look, I get bored with this, and I'm going to be totally honest. When all this stuff first started, more people were interested. I'd get more views on videos, and I don't get as many views covering this stuff as I did, a month or two ago, and I don't care. This needs to be talked about. We cannot let the extremists claim this is normal. And that's what happens when the news says riots aren't newsworthy because they've been happening for 86 nights in a row. So regular people just live with the reality that this will happen in their neighborhood and is a normal part of their life. I don't accept that. I don't. ABC News actually has the story. It's the Associated Press at the very least. Smoke filled the air outside a police precinct in Portland, Oregon, as authorities worked to clear a crowd accused of damaging patrol vehicles, throwing projectiles, and pointing lasers at officers. Police declared a riot early Saturday outside the department's North Precinct. Smoke was deployed and officers physically forced protesters away from the area. They called it a riot. Call them rioters. Windows were broken on patrol vehicles, police said, and items such as glass bottles were thrown and lasers were aimed at officers. Now, look, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details on this because I'll tell you what, you know exactly what's happening. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because I will not allow this to become the new normal. So I will provide the updates that I can. And like I said, we're seeing now St. Petersburg and many other areas, not the only place. They've started coming after those who are starting these riots. Most notably is a Democrat in Virginia hit with 2 felonies for tearing down a statue months after having done it. So let this be a word of warning to all these people who keep engaging in this behavior. There's a delay. There's a lag. Here's how it works. You go out and do this. They start building a case. And then about a month or 2 later, they come and they arrest you. And the feds now are asking for information and they will find you. You know what really bugs me, though, is that we keep seeing these videos of Portland rioters marching through residential neighborhoods, shining lights in windows and screaming, "Wake up, stolen land," and all that stuff. And it's exactly what I said was going to happen. You know, I made this joke. They announced that some white actors or whatever announced that they weren't going to be voicing cartoon characters of color or whatever. And I laughed and said, okay, now do Family Guy. Because the guy who voices Cleveland Brown in Family Guy is a white dude and Cleveland Brown is a black dude. And sure enough, he stepped down and people were like, Tim, stop making predictions. Stop making predictions. Okay, I'm going to give you a good prediction right now. All right, this is the point. They're marching through these neighborhoods. I said that would happen. Sooner or later, they will be marching down the residential neighborhood. And my fear is that sooner or later, they'll actually go up to someone's home. Well, that actually already happened several times. They went to some lady's house. They vandalized it. They physically attacked her. Now, mind you, the lady was wearing a very dumb armband. I don't know. She's allowed to do it. Fine, whatever. Don't go to people's houses. So there's no justification for going to someone's house, vandalizing it, and physically attacking her, for sure. I'm just pointing out I don't agree with that. That she was wearing this. But then residents came out, challenged some of these rioters, and they've gone since then to other residencies. In one video, they were bullhorning in a neighborhood, and they actually went onto some dude's property, and he was screaming, "Get off my property, get off my property." The next step, if we see that escalation, is they will deliberately go onto your property, call someone out specifically, and start smashing up the window. Eventually, they'll be in the homes, and that is a horrifying thing to believe will happen. But as long as we keep seeing unchecked extremism, I believe it's extremely likely. Now, here's the good news, though. As I said, my predictions have relatively vague. I'm not predicting lottery numbers here. I'm just saying, oh, look, they're in a residential neighborhood. I'm worried they're going to go on someone's property. Then they did. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's not hard to, it's like 1 + 1 = 2, right? Well, here's a good prediction. The FBI is looking for you. So here's the obvious prediction. The FBI is currently seeking information on these people. Here's some optimism. They are gonna snatch you up. Oh, you were scared about the fake news about them coming in unmarked vehicles and snatching people off the streets. It was 2 people, and they were identified as police very easily, and they were using an unmarked vehicle, but that's normal for policing. They were wearing things that said police. Stop. Here's what's going to happen. A black unmarked SUV is going to pull up to your home, moronic far leftist, and a bunch of guys in suits will come and knock on your door, and you'll say, I don't know who they are, and they will arrest you. And you'll receive federal charges, and you will lose, and you will go to prison. At least that's what we can hope is going to happen, but I think it's a fair prediction. Governor Brown threatens travel restrictions and restaurant closures. You want to know why I'm highlighting this story from the other day? You actually have the Oregon governor saying, we can't reopen these businesses and we must have travel restrictions, COVID. There are people every night marching through the street with impunity to a certain degree. I mean, yeah, they're being arrested. Some of them, they're being let go. So maybe this isn't your biggest priority, or it shouldn't be your biggest priority, but apparently that's what they do. Well, I'll tell you what, here we go, baby. Louisiana AG warns violent crime in the U.S. will reach epidemic levels. There's a tipping point that's coming in this country. AG Jeff Landry warns that crime in the U.S. will get worse before it gets better. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. The night is always darkest before the dawn. It doesn't mean that we are going to be diving headfirst into the depths of hell, but it does mean that we are going to see there's going to be a lot of crime. We're already seeing it. In many different cities, lethal crime is way up, and the AG is saying it will get worse. But I wanted to at least give you some positive information. I mean, I opened this with this guy's being charged. Good. The FBI is seeking these people out. We may see more violent crime. The extremists may show up to people's homes. Black Lives Matter. People, individuals, whatever you want to call them, now overtly charged. Just a straight up terror. Well, there you go. There you go, Crowder. A Black Lives Matter activist marching, engaging in a riot for Black Lives Matter is being charged with terroristic activity. That's enough for me. They're terrorists. Not every single one, but when you have terrorists in your group and you defend what they do and say it's reparations, looting is reparations or whatever, then yeah, absolutely. But what this AG is saying in Louisiana is it is going to get worse. It is. But do not fear, because it will get better. The night is always darkest before the dawn. He says, Attorney General Jeff Landry believes that it was inevitable that violent crime in the U.S. will get worse, and warns that given the current state of affairs in cities across the country, the worst is yet to come. In a phone interview with Fox News, Landry said that while he has tried to be tough on crime in his state, he realized years ago that in other parts of the country there were signs that crime would reach epidemic levels. When I became Attorney General back in 2016, one of the first things that we tackled was we took a very proactive fight against crime. I predicted 4 and 5 years ago that this country was headed towards an extreme violent crime outbreak, that it was going to become an epidemic. With homicide and gun violence on the rise in cities across the country, Landry said he is not surprised. I called that. And this thing is something that's been building and has only been heightened by this particular lawlessness. I do believe that there's a tipping point that's coming in this country because I believe that every violent crime creates an exponential number of victims. Pushes to overhaul law enforcement across the country by stripping police department of funds will not help the matters either, according to Landry, who is a Republican. I can tell you that defunding the police is certainly not an answer. It's kind of crazy. The other night I had Brandon Strzok of Walk Away on the IRL podcast, and he said 3 months ago, if you went to someone and said, my political platform is to defund the police and strip them of resources, people would laugh. I'm paraphrasing because I actually laughed. And he says, exactly, people would have that reaction. He's right. It's absurd. Now crime is skyrocketing. Terrorists are romping through the streets, normalizing extremist behavior, violence, vandalism, fights with police every night for 86 nights. Crime is skyrocketing. And I kid you not, you actually have a large portion, at the very least, of the Democratic Party advocating for not just defunding the police, but outright abolishing them. With a New York Times op-ed, which reads, yes, we mean abolish the police. They've done it in Minneapolis. They outright disbanded their police department. And crime is on the rise. And that's where these stories come together. When you have extremists going out for 86 nights, when you have them attacking the police and the local news just thinks it's not worth covering anymore, or they don't get to it the way they used to. Because look, like I'm going to say it again. Maybe they will cover this. Okay, maybe. It used to be that I'd wake up and I'd check the local outlets to see what they were saying. They don't have it. They're like, oh, they're talking about COVID. When the normalization happens, that means you can expect in your neighborhood. I don't care where you are. I said this. I don't care where you are. They will eventually show up. Now, to be fair, these cities are very, very big. I think Portland's like 145 square miles. So I'm not necessarily saying they will make it to your house guaranteed. But it's like buying a lottery ticket for destruction. If there is a 1% chance that, let's say you buy a lottery ticket and you got a 1% chance of, losing $100. Would you buy it? You'd be like, I'll buy the ticket for $1. I don't lose money. Like, that's a good chance. The point I'm making is you need to start taking care of yourself and preparing for the worst. You've got this AG saying he thinks things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. This shouldn't necessarily be bad news, because on the other side of this hill is going to be, we're staring down at the fire and we can see just how bad it is. But on the other side, you've got the FBI, you've got law enforcement, and they're running towards us with the fire hose. That's the point. That's why I highlighted the fact that they are starting to look for these people and they're actually going to start arresting them. That many of these people are being charged with various crimes, some even with terrorism. Because you are not just trapped in a building and the end is not coming. The fire will get worse, but we can see the people rushing in to try and stop it. However, I'm really worried about what happens if Biden wins. because you will not have the FBI anymore seeking to stop these people. You won't. Look, these riots started under Biden as part of the Obama administration. Black Lives Matter riots, Ferguson, Baltimore, Milwaukee, all of it was under Joe Biden. If he wins, and that's why I've become a very single issue voter, the riots, the extremism, the violence. Trump he tweeted out today, I think it was today or last night, we can do this. We can send in law enforcement. Just ask. We will help. I think if Trump wins, he will be untethered and he will say, now it's time to end this. I don't know if he should do it. I'm not saying he should. I think it's up to the governors to accept you need federal help. Lori Lightfoot won't do it. Mayor, allies, stymie effort to call in National Guard. Wow. Mayor Lori Lightfoot had called the effort by 4 city aldermen grandstanding. Chicago, heck of a place. You can have mass looting. They can raise the bridges they raise the bridges around downtown, cutting off the north side. That there were Black Lives Matter activists outraged about this, saying it's really difficult now to even get through because they barricade off certain exits. And she's like, they're protecting the white neighborhoods. Chicago, man, it's getting bad. So here's what I think will happen. I think the feds are working right now, but that's under Donald Trump. Joe Biden, when he was with Obama, they didn't do anything to stop this. I think if Joe Biden wins, he's going to start doing exactly what these other Democrats are already doing. And Black Lives Matter. They are telling us that is true. In fact, there was a Facebook post where someone said it's easier to overthrow a pathetic old man than it is someone like Donald Trump. They're literally saying that Joe Biden is so weak, they will do whatever they want if he wins. And Biden will do exactly what they're doing in Chicago, exactly what they're doing in Oregon. I hate to say it, man, but that's just a fact. And it's so annoying. You go to Reddit, you go to these websites, and they're like, Biden and Harris is the safe choice. They're starting fires and they're showing up to people's homes. They are bringing out weapons, guns, Molotovs. They're being charged with terrorism because that's what they're trying to do. They're shaking down local businesses. We need stronger leaders who can just say the good, innocent, working people of this country must be protected from violent extremists. And they're not doing it. And Joe Biden certainly won't. Right now, we have an opportunity to ask Donald Trump to deploy feds to actually stop the extremism. He won't do it. Not unless he's given the okay by these local leaders. They won't do it either. If Joe Biden gets elected, that option's off the table. And now it's just chaos. So as long as these Democrats run their cities like they're despotic lunatics, then I'm terrified about what happens if someone like Joe Biden, who clearly does not have the cognitive capabilities to be president, gets elected. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.